Hi there, Fishbowl friends and my fishy friends. This is Jean with Terabyte Solutions. Today we are going to have a conversation about proper internal controls and how we did those things back in the days of paper and how that works within Fishbowl. So there's a lot of potential for fraud in the purchase to pay function. There have been people who, purchasing agents who cut POs to, dummy companies and then marked up the paperwork and, got it past accounts payable, etc. and so on. So there's a classic three-part match, which is essential to internal control. Purchasing issues the purchase order to the vendor. Copies of that purchase order go to receiving and to accounts payable. The vendor accepts the order, ships the product, and includes generally a packing list. The stuff shows up at the back door. Receiving looks at their copy of the PO to make sure that we are expecting a shipment from that vendor. It's not totally unheard of that, people might ship or overship an order, somewhere close to their year end. I worked for a guy like that once. And they're going to make sure the goods are in good condition. They're going to count them. They're going to verify that they were authorized to be purchased. And they are going to send that probably with the packing list, a receiving document, which also goes to accounts payable. In the meantime, winging through snail mail back in the day, a vendor bill would also come to accounts payable. And AP would have 3 separate files, alphabetical files, and her purchase orders would be filed alphabetically by vendor in file A. Her bills would be filed alphabetically in file B. And her receivers and packing list would be filed alphabetical in file C. And then she would take these 3 files and she would match them all up into a document. And she would very thoroughly make sure that we were charged the correct price by the vendor. The quantity received matches the quantity the vendor billed us for. And so she's the control point before this goes into the system as a bill and monies are released to the vendor. So this lady's got power. Okay. So in Fishbowl, that process looks like this. We come into purchasing. We create a purchase order, and we will go with Baxter Computer Repair. And yeah, we'll buy things that don't make any sense at all. And let's see. Okay. And let's say we're going to order 50 of those and 10 of those. And 20 of those, and we need to have a cost 5, 10, 20. You can see I'm not particularly original. All right, so I'm going to issue this, which is the same as approving a purchase order. And that purchase order is now going to show in the receiving module. And if you're using Fishbowl Go, it will show on the gun. Receiving will, when it comes in the back, go through and count. Okay, so let's say we got 55 of those. And, this is something that normally can go over. So I'm going to go ahead and receive that line. And it says, okay, 55 and finish. And it says, you're receiving more than was ordered. Are you sure it's okay? Are we sure we're going to take this extra product? And you're going to say yes or no. Okay. Here, I'm going to go through and I'm only going to receive 8. 10 showed up damaged. 2 of them showed up damaged. So I'm going to receive 8. And then I'm going to, these were perfect. I got all 20 of them. So now, okay, the receiving person could put in who he gave the product to. We can tie this to a specific customer job, etc. So receiving's job is done. Okay, so the fact that these guys have trucks is the equivalent of my receiving report that I had in the paper world. Okay, and now time passes on, and accounting comes in here to reconcile. So she's only going to reconcile what has been received. We never reconcile what we didn't get, because that's kind of a violation. It's like, okay, the vendors billed me for 10, but I only got 8, but I'm going to go ahead and pay them for 10 anyway. Not a good plan. Okay, so vendor bill number, and a lot of times I just do this. Better with numbers. And then the bill date, because QuickBooks is really date sensitive and Fishbowl's not. We want our bill date to be the same as our receipt date. Okay. And I know lots of people want to argue with me here about whether or not they get to pay their bills on time using this method. But it's much easier to, I only have heard of one company ever that paid its AP every day. Most companies pay it once a week, and its due date's closest to the Friday date, etc. So we can go over that a little bit more later. Right now, we're just talking about how this goes through the principles of the three-part match. So now here's the build cost, and this 20, they're now charging us $20.25, and this one is the price lowered to $9.99, and we check with purchasing, and those are our new prices, and that is acceptable to us. So we're going to go next, and now I can add things to my bill like freight in that we're not on normal purchase order. Okay, I can also add in setup costs. I hope I have a setup cost. Nope, I don't. So I will stop right there. We're not making this too much more complicated, because this is the first in a series. We're just dealing with the accounting principles of the three-part match. I'm going to have some in-depth videos on landed costs, etc., and so on. So we'll talk about there. So now I've got a $5 freight in charge, and I can choose to not calculate landed cost, or to calculate it based upon the quantity of each item, or on the size of each item, or on the cost of each item. Okay, and I'll get different landed costs depending on what we do there. So now I go next, and it shows me this is the cost that was on my purchase order. This is what the vendor billed me that we've agreed to, and this is what the cost is with the freight added and spread across these three products. Finish, and we're done. So at this point, I don't think we want to leave that PO open for 2. Probably go back to the purchase order and hit this lovely little close short button, so I don't have those 2 units lingering out there. So that is all I have to say about the classic three-part match, internal controls, and how Fishbowl handles that. Come back for additional YouTube videos regarding more advanced receiving concepts and advanced landed cost concept. Thank you very much for viewing this video, and we at Terabyte Solutions are a full service Fishbowl support firm, so we would like to help you with your Fishbowl issues. Give us a ring at 645-1019, and we will be happy to help. Thank you very much. Bye.